Alrighty guys, we're back for Selesnya counters, and this is a Bloomburrow standard brew, and I'm Red Cat. Let's briefly go over the deck, then hop right into some ranked, but first things first, this was a suggestion down in the comments. So thank you so much for the suggestion, it's gonna be a fun one. We have all four Botanical Brawlers. This is a 2 mana 0/0. When it enters with 2+1/+1 counters on it. Has trample as well, which will of course come in handy. And whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put onto another permanent you control, if it's the first time that +1/+1 counters have been put onto that permanent this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on Botanical Brawler as well, which of course is a pretty good ability. We have other cards in here with pretty good abilities, like all four Quirion Beastcaller, of course. This is a 2 mana 2/2. When you cast a creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Beastcaller. And when it dies, you get to distribute those counters among any number of target creatures you control, which is pretty darn good. Might as well keep going over these 2-drops, huh? We have 3 Innkeeper's Talent. This is a 2 mana enchantment class. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Nice. At level 2, for just 1 green mana, permanents you control with counters on them have Ward 1. Nice. Now, at level 3, for 3 and a green, if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. Nice. I don't know how often in this build in particular we'll want to spend 4 mana to do that, but hey, it's on the card, so. We have 3 Bristly Bill Spine Sower. A 2 mana 2/2. It has that landfall where when the land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and then a pretty good bottom ability, which it just isn't unheard of to end games with. For 3 and double green, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Good stuff, man. In this build, we have 24 total mana, and 4 of them are actually Fabled Passage, which will, of course, work well with that landfall on the Bristly Bill. So we have all 4 Dusk Legion Duelist in here too. This is a 2 mana 2/2 with Vigilance, and when 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto Dusk Legion Duelist, you draw a card, and this ability triggers only once each turn, but that's all you need to restock your hand pretty efficiently with this. So efficiently, in fact, this is going to have a huge target on its back. The opponent will remove this as soon as they can. Speaking of removal, we have a little bit of removal packed in. 1 Get Lost. Yep. We have a couple hard-hitting questions in here too. Is that going to be enough removal? Probably not, but honestly, who knows, as we're trying to just do the very large thing and go as fast as possible. Now, over here in the 1-drop spot, we actually have all 4 Pawpatch Recruit. It's a 1 mana 2/1 with Offspring for 2, and it also has Trample, which is pretty good. And then whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than that creature. That is good. We also have 4 Enduring Bondwardens as well. This is a 1 white mana 0/1 with backup for 1. So when it enters, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If it's another creature, it also gains the abilities printed below this one. On this card, what's printed below? Well, when this creature dies, put its counters on target creature you control. So it was a toss-up between Bondwarden here or the brand spanking new Sunshower Druid as well. And I opted for the Bondwarden because if we only have the Bondwarden and we're plugging extra counters onto it off of like the Innkeeper's Talent, then I would much rather have that bottom ability just in case it ends up dying or something. So that's why Sunshower Druid didn't make the cut. Maybe we could do something fancy with this Druid another time. Now also over here we have a Requisition Raid. As a 1/of, it is a 1 white mana sorcery, but it has Spree, so for the additional cost of 1, destroy target artifact. For the additional cost of 1, destroy target enchantment. And for the additional cost of 1, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls, and you target yourself. Yeah, no, I really like this card. I think it'll do the thing today, especially when it comes time to pop Temporary Lockdown, which is going to be an absolute menace for a build like this. So in the 3 mana spot, we have all 4 Ornery Tumblewaggs. 3 mana 2/2 at the beginning of combat on your turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So the same thing as the Innkeeper's Talent, but on a creature, right? Also has Saddle for 2, and when it attacks while saddled, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature, which would be really, really good if you're doubling it on the Brawler or something that has Trample. So Also on the top end, we got a Doomskar Warrior, another backup 1 card with Trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, we don't have any battles in here though, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I feel like I only played with this warrior like 1 time. I feel like I just didn't give it a fair shot. So hopefully we'll get to see this top end do a thing today. Also in the mana base, we have all 4 Razorverge Thicket because early land's going to be pretty important here. We have a couple of Brushlands too, because I do think that the mana base is going to be a little bit greedy, depending on what mana we want to keep open and whatnot. And then we're leaning a little bit forest because that's what the deck is leaning towards. We do have some other honorable mentions as well, guys. Siege Veteran was a card I thought about for sure. Thought about this Sovereign card for the top end too. I thought about Restless Prairie, of course, instead of the Brushland, because the Pain land has been a true pain in the butt, and hopefully the Brushland doesn't end up doing too much damage to us today, but Restless Prairie is something to consider for sure. I just opted for the untapped sources instead. And then Evolving Adaptive was actually, I believe, in the original suggested cards for the deck list. However, based on how I put this list together, I don't think Evolving Adaptive is actually going to buff up too much, especially since it's not +1/+1 counters. It's actually oil counters that give it +1/+1. So yeah, not this time around, but I thought I'd still put it over here in the honorable mentions anyways. Okay, guys. I do my dandiest to go ahead and save the more in-depth discussion for the end of the video. In the meantime, let's go ahead, take this into some ranked, and see how we do. All right, we'll see if we can get right into that first game. In the meantime, what am I expecting from the build? A little bit, dude. I think this is going to be pretty good. We have a lot of good cards packed in with a lot of excellent synergies as well. So we'll see, though. We'll see. I like this. I'm keeping this hand. Opponent goes first, unfortunately, which should be scary for sure. Island, sleight of hand. Oh, dear. Okay, Razorverge Thicket is not a bad draw. We'll start getting our cards down. There's an option here where we wait to actually play Beastcaller, and then 3-drop the Recruit for the Offspring. But with that island, yeah, and they pass it back. So yeah, I don't know, if we waited that turn, that could have been really, really bad. I'm tempted to thin the deck. I'll tell you what, that's also a thing that we could have done turn 1 too. So the counter. Which one would we rather them counter? The Beastcaller. That way Duelist can try to restock our hand. We start with the swing here since it doesn't affect the damage going through. We get that too, and we see if Beastcaller lands, which I doubt it. It's a Curate. Beastcaller lands. Holy cow. That's huge for us, man. That's going to be great. We got to expect some more tempo then from the opponent. Oh, they send the crab. That means they probably have one in hand already. Hadi Jin comes down, but they tap out for that. Unfortunately, we don't have removal in hand to deal with the Hadi Jin, but it's nice that they tapped out for the turn. Bristly Bill's a pretty darn good draw, isn't it? That's the play for sure. Because we're buffing the Beastcaller. And we can play Fabled Passage. We'll buff the Recruit because that would still be a good trade, right? 3-2. So if we go buff both onto the Recruit in full swing, we're probably getting 4 damage through. I suppose we want to grab a green source. I don't know if it matters too much, though. Right, so neither of these trade with the Jin. They might take the 7, guys. They do take the 7. Which I'm surprised about, because they could have blocked the Beastcaller without any issues. But I suppose it's going to be a second Hadi Jin with no island. Guys, we have like a free turn here to do things, which is kind of crazy. Tempted to draw on the Dusk Legion Duelist, but I think we go for the full swing. We're going to like back up onto the Bristly Bill here. We want to play all of the creatures and all of the lands before combat. You have a double block there. So let's go on to the Bristly Bill, Dusk Legion Duelist. See, like we had the option to put counters on the Duelist, but this is much better, dude. We're forcing blocks now. They do go for the double block into one of these, but that would be taking 9. We're pretty wide here. All right, we take out one of the Hottie Gens. That's huge for us, and it was really huge that we got that 3 through in that turn prior. However, we'll see if that 3 actually ends up mattering here. 3 steps ahead on their turn. Looking for the 4th mana, I can only assume. We might have gotten a little lucky here in this first game. Requisition Raid is going to buff this wide board state too, so they need multiple pieces of tempo. Yeah, I'd say we got a little lucky there, guys. I don't know about you. But also, like, we got to see a lot of the deck's synergies as well. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think it was definitely good. Put the Bondwardens extra counters over here and not worry about that Duelist. And the Bristly Bill extra counters, all in that swing, right? And then next turn, Requisition Raid, man. Putting a +1/+1 counter on each of these is kind of wild, but if we didn't want to do that, neither of these have Trample, though. I was going to say, we have the 5th mana. We could always activate Bristly Bill's ability, too, to double the amount of counters on these. But without Trample, I guess it depends on what else the opponent would have actually played had they actually seen a bit more mana. That's what it felt like. It kind of felt like they were just missing that 4th and they really needed it. Or maybe it was really risky of them to play the 2nd Hottie Djinn too instead of keeping open mana. That's very possible as well. All right, opponent, what you bringing to the table, buddy? Oh, unfortunately, this is a mulligan. This is not a mulligan. This is a good hand. So I wonder then if we just skip the Fabled Passage. I think so. I do like this as is. Let's keep this. And of course, we have the highest chance of seeing more mana off the top, especially since there's 24 packed in here, and most of our cards are 2 mana or less too. Beastcaller. I like the Beastcaller. Yeah, we're going to get that down and established and see what we can do next turn. This is where, of course, more mana would really come in handy. When you have this many 2-drops, then seeing your 4th is kind of important, so you can do multiple 2-drops on the same turn. Which is why I don't believe we're going to discuss going down any mana, but you never know. Start with Innkeeper if we want. Brawler's not bad to get down. Establishing the Duelist wouldn't be terrible too. I guess Duelist is pretty good. Taking the 1 here is fine. That's a good double block. If they take this, that's really good for us. Okay, we get that 3 through. Yeah, if they double blocked there, not only would we remove 2 creatures, but we would have put a counter on the Duelist and then drawn off of that too. So yeah, we got that 3 through. Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. They also have a good swing, and we are going to take that. All right, mana. All right. Hard-hitting question is probably going to have to do something. Taking out the Mentor seems like a good idea, but the Might Caller can technically grow above the Mentor. But not, well, I guess not really. The Mentor kind of grows at the same pace as long as they're still slamming creatures on the board. But if we take out the Might Caller too, okay, there's a lot to consider here. Innkeeper's talent would be really good too. Let's just go for the Brawler. We're just like establishing more onto the board and trying to get more setup going then. And the hard-hitting question is sorcery speed, so we can't do anything too fancy. I'd say we need to take out the Might Caller, though. That lowers that too. The recruit's ability is actually really bad for us as well. Where do they want to plug that counter? Onto the mentor then. I'm going to stick to this plan. The recruit gives him a counter. But we still have the swing with the Beastcaller. So I think we still have a good chance of outpacing. That's a... We also could have played the recruit in our hand. That goes down to a 4-4. That's a good trade for us, right? It's a really good trade because we can distribute those counters. So they take the 4 probably, which is why we have that chance of outpacing. All right. All right. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Taking out the recruit could have been decent too, I guess. Woo! Hop to it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And the trample too. So, oh, maybe it was the mentor then. Yeah, the mentor's trample. Well, I don't think there's going to be a way through after the hop to it. So that is definitely something to think about. Well, wait a minute. Mightcaller has trample as well. Oh, we're probably going to be in trouble regardless here. Tumblewagg isn't bad. That buffs the Beastcaller. Well, similar concept if we play the recruit too and the talent on the same turn. At that point, it would just be the talent. We can't take the 1 though. So I guess it would be the Tumblewagg. We can't take the 1 from the Brushland. And then we would want to draw on the Duelist like this. But either way, we're going to die. But we're going to get a fun swing while we're at it. So let's do that. Selesnya versus Selesnya. Very different versions of Selesnya, but the board states are kind of similar too, which is interesting. I mean, you guys know what I mean by similar, of course, but like not really similar, but kind of sort of like we have a bunch of creatures. We got counters on our creatures. We have trample on our creatures. They go for the chump. Yep. Go down to 6, and that is it. We'll let them swing on in because that is a lot of fun. When is it not fun to swing with a bunch of bunnies, you know? So yeah, if we would have hit the mentor, the Mightcaller would have gotten an additional 3 counters and then another counter from the recruit anyway. So it was a very, very similar concept. They go for a Knight Errant of Eos to see more creatures off the top. They find a Quest Caller and a Warren Guard. Nice. Buff wide with the Quest Caller. And we will take those blocks and drop the GGs. Knight Errant of Eos. I like that. I like that opponent. I don't know if I considered Convoke for my bunny list. We have to revisit bunnies soon enough because I had a lot of comments in the bunnies list about Mightcaller making the cut. Wait, I don't remember what my top end looked like in that video. That was right when the set came out. Maybe I had Knight Errant in the honorable mention. I don't think so, though. I really like that addition, though. It makes a lot of sense when you're going wide and when you're rocking all 4 hop to it in there, too. So I don't think I had any Convoke anywhere near my bunny list, but for some reason, I can't remember right now. All right, let's get right into that next game. Honestly, with how it played out, I gained a bit of confidence in the build. I like this hand. See, this is another one where we could consider the turn 3 recruit, and I'm just not going to, though. We'll have a turn 3 double down on creatures instead. Oh, hey, you have your own recruit. What's that doing over there? Okay, let's see if we can get this swing through, and I accept that trade if not. 2 gets through, and Beastcaller comes down. Is this going to be more bunnies? It's going to be more bunnies, guys. Wow. All right, here's the planned revenge. We have a really good hand, first of all, so... We should take out that archer, right? The hard-hitting question. I was going to draw on the Duelist. Problem is, they get a counter on the Recruit then. Now, we should take it out while we can, unfortunately. And I'm just going to say that the counter on the Recruit is worth taking out the Archer before they start swinging. Because what ends up happening is it's going to be their turn 3, so they could drop the hop to it and then swing and put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. That's a token. Yep. All those would have gotten the counters, man. I'm happy that we removed that. Although we would have traded our creature then into, but that would have been too much value for them, I would say, right? Yeah, I think so. Right, so counter on the Duelist. If they trade, we can plug those counters elsewhere. So let's do the Bondwarden and start with the draw. Requisition Raid. Huh. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Do I do that? It's 3 counters. I like that. We're doing it. It's sorcery speed, so it's not a combat trick, but it's something. Let's see where they block. We're going for this. Dusk Legion Duelist has Vigilance too. Yeah, GG opponent. Wow. All right, let's keep the ball rolling. Like I said, I'm gaining confidence in the list as I'm playing it. Yeah. Just like incredible synergies packed in. A lot of options. One thing for sure, though, is like hitting that 3rd seems very important. And I would still say that hitting that 4th is very important for this list as well. And if you are keeping your hand incredibly stocked off of like the Dusk Legion Duelist too, then yeah, you're going to want to just continuously play multiple things on that turn. The hands have been terrific. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, the hands have been really good. So we have an option of like turn 2 Bristly Bill. Just to have it like get down and establish, but I'm pretty sure it's like always turn 2 Beastcaller. Just makes a little bit more sense. Also, especially when we have Fabled Passage in hand, that's just honestly silly to consider the Bristly Bill at that point. All right. Couple creatures established, potentially up against control. We have to get there before the sunfall, and the temporary lockdown would be incredibly devastating. Do we play around a temporary lockdown, though? To an extent, which means we won't go for 2 of our creatures, but we're still going to try to maximize the damage here. If they counter the Bristly Bill, that could be pretty bad as well, but it does weaken their temporary lockdown a little bit, I guess. It's going to be a get lost. Oh. Okay. Well, that probably means they don't have temporary lockdown, but I'm still going to save this creature back and just go for the Fabled Passage play instead. And I might... Yeah, I'll do it now. We'll maximize the damage, put all our eggs into one basket. How do you guys feel about that? Hopefully that's fine. This is a lot of mana. It's a good thing that we're thinning the deck with the Fabled Passage for the turn, and the map token should come in handy too. Ooh, Doomskar Warrior. That's interesting. Tempted to save that as a trick, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to try to play it. We'll start by putting a counter onto the Bristly Bill and putting another counter onto the Bristly Bill. If they counter this, then we'll still have 8 swinging through on the board. When I'm thinking of oh, it must be more spot removal then. All right, let's see what happens here. Ooh, it's going to be get lost for the Recruit, and I'm going to go all in on that Bristly Bill. All right, let's see. Doomskar Warrior's ability. Creature or land. Wow, it's just going to be more land. We'll grab the plains then, right? Because it's an untapped source. And that's kind of important if we plan on like doubling the counters on the Bristly Bill or something. GG opponent. Missed their board wipes, right? Missed their early board wipes. Missed their 4th mana. It looked like maybe, or maybe they just decided that that was enough. Just 2 get lost from the opponent. It had to have been a control list, right? I can only imagine. Yeah, just good value coming through. That kind of felt lucky too, though. And do I think that if they would have seen their board wipes that we still would have had a chance? I don't know. We were seeing a lot of mana, but we also had a lot of map tokens to start popping, and we could start plugging those onto the Bondwarden that we had in hand too. Yeah. All right. Opponent goes first. The hands have been terrific. I'm keeping this. Guys, while I have you here in the middle of the video, uh-oh, mono red, all right. And they went first too. Okay, well, I don't want to hold up the opponent. Let me play this out before, well, based on what we have, tempted by the turn 1 Bondwarden, and then start buffing that with the Innkeeper's talent. Because either way, it's probably going to be some burn, but the burn feels pretty bad to take out a 1-2 instead of like trying to burn our face or something, right? Mistress Foundry. All right, no blocks. See that buff? No buff. It's going to be a slick shot show off. Okay. Well, I was going to talk all that YouTube stuff in the middle of this game, but the opponent's playing really fast, so I don't want to hold them up. The Innkeeper's talent down, and you know, if this Bondwarden takes a lightning strike off of our face, that's pretty good. Call me crazy, I'm going for the swing too. I don't think we're gonna die next turn since we're still at 18, but I guess you never know with their free slick shot show off. Swiss Spear, show off. And if they had double mountain, I would say we're in trouble, but it's another show off. Swinging for 4. Wow. All right. So next turn is the explosive turn then. Tumblewagg could be good. Getting multiple blockers on the ground for the Swiss Spear with the Recruit could be good. Keeping the Bondwarden as a 3/4 on the ground is probably a little better though. So it really depends. I guess it doesn't depend that much. I think it is going to actually be Offspring Recruit. With Show Off in the air regardless, Tumblewagg, we could put even more counters onto the Bondwarden. I don't know about that, though. This makes sense to me. Especially now, too, if they end up... Okay, yeah, all onto the Bondwarden. Yeah, I don't mind this. Now, if they end up trying to burn one of our creatures, too, we have that Recruit ability, which is actually just incredible. This looks like a full swing from the opponent. They only got 1 card in hand, though. So this might be a risky swing. They just swing. Oh, okay. They're swinging with the squee, too. Okay. We'll take the 3, block the squee. That last card in hand doesn't feel like a monstrous rage, guys. We might be okay for a couple turns here. The question is, how do we start to squeeze damage through while actually keeping ourselves safe as well? The Tumblewagg can start buffing on the ground as well. I'm not going to get the Brushland down because we don't need it with this current hand. And the Bondwarden can start buffing, I guess, too. Maybe it'll buff the Tumblewagg. Get that above a shock. Oh! Auto tapper, guys. Auto tapper. Oh, no. I was going to get the Bondwarden down. Now I'm tempted for Ward. You know what? I'm going to do that. I am going to do that. And then we get a couple counters onto things here. And we're going to go onto the Tumblewagg. And onto the Recruit. I guess, like, starting to get these counters wide is fine. To decide when it's going to be worthwhile. Double block into Recruit's really good for the opponent. But the Bondwarden could get 3 through here, potentially. We lose a Great Blocker on the ground if we do that. Gonna hold it back. Yeah, watch out for the auto tapper. We should have tapped all 3 green forests for the Tumblewagg and got the Bondwarden down too. But also getting ward onto our creatures is pretty good. Wren's Resolve. Uh-oh. Slickshot Show-Off might do us in. They find 2 mountains. They got 6 in the air with these show-offs. Wonder when that full swing's gonna come in, because they still got this one here. But we're really holding them up on the ground right now. With 6 in the air, we're likely dead next turn, because they just need to do that one more time, and they just need to do that next turn. Oh, buddy. Okay, okay. Can we do 18 damage this turn? No. We'll get the Brushland down. So we're dead next turn, right? Slickshot Show-Off probably ends this, whatever they draw. Their face-down card could also help them find more off the top too, potentially. Oh, Mishra's Foundry helps them go wide. So going wide, getting more blockers on the ground, that's all fine. We probably still don't survive, though. So I'm going to go for the fun swing. Give me 1 second, opponent. I am thinking, buddy. The best swing possible here would be Innkeeper's Talent. Right? For 4. Now all the counters are doubled whenever they're put onto something. And then we go into the trample. So we go Bondwarden. And we go all into the trampling creature, like this, right? And then Tumblewagg needs to swing. Power 2, so unfortunately that'll be the Bondwarden over here, like that. Now, Pawpatch Recruit. Okay, I see, I see. Okay. So we plug all of it into the one trampling creature. Then we swing like this. And then we double that. Wait a minute. We double that. Wait a minute. Guys. Holy cow. So instead of an extra 7, we put an extra 14 onto the Pawpatch Recruit. How cool was that, man? Holy cow. Yeah, that was something. Wait a minute. What were they at here? -9. Wow. So, okay, first of all, it would have had to been chump, right? So that would have been 4 there, and then another 4 here. So they would have been at -1, correct? If they would have done the blocks. Holy cow, dude. GG. This is working, man. I like it. Good thing we were going for the fun swing, because I didn't really math that out. I didn't think we had lethal on the board, but wow, was it a lot. Innkeeper's Talent. Doubling the double on the Tumblewagg. That's what I'm talking about, dude. I feel like we should end on a high note against Mono Red, especially since I'm a little crunched on time this evening. Let's go ahead and crack a pack here, too. And at the beginning of that game, I was trying to bring up as well, while I had you in the middle of the video, now I have you here at the end of the video. Make sure you check out that description where we got that Discord link, as well as that Patreon link, too, if you're interested in joining either of those up or supporting the channel that way. And then also, for the other YouTube stuff, if you liked the video, make sure you drop it a like. And if you like the channel, consider subscribing as well. It really does help out the channel, of course. All right, what do we got here? What rare did we get? Mockingbird. Let's go. I'm excited to actually try this card out. This must be my second Mockingbird. Yeah, since technically I don't play too much blue. I didn't get a chance to try it yet, but I am very excited to actually try that. All right, to the deck lists. Selesnya counters. We got 5 games in, apparently. For some reason, I can't remember that first game, guys. It must not have been a very memorable victory. I don't remember that first game. Well, either way, here's the deck list again. Beautiful synergies. Just so much going on. A lot of, like, a lot of turns, you know, I want to say that the deck list kind of played itself, right? The order of things kind of played itself out on its own, but not necessarily, as we still had a lot of decisions to make on the ordering. But it kind of felt like the correct order presented itself a little bit easier than some other deck lists as well, right? Where I brought up in one of those games, it's probably usually just turn 2 Beastcaller while you have it, especially when we have 29 creatures packed in. So you're probably always going to be buffing that Beastcaller on the next turn anyways. This was fun, man. This was good stuff. Is this going to be enough removal? Get lost in hard-hitting question. I don't know. It actually, like, it felt fine. You can kind of consider the Requisition Raid removal too. And you're going to need that for removing temporary lockdown, which is popping up everywhere. But then also, if you're not removing temporary lockdown, then just putting +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures is really, really good too. So I actually liked the Bondwarden. I actually liked this, but its bottom ability didn't come in handy. So remember when I said it was between that or the frog, the Sun Shower Druid? I think that'll be up to you guys. Here's the big thing though, right? Bondwarden's a white card. Druid is a green card. If you drop 4 white cards and go up 4 green cards, it's going to mess with the mana base a little bit. Of course, it's going to lean us even heavier into the green. So at that point, you might have to reconsider some of the mana base. Or I guess you don't have to reconsider it, but I'm pretty sure you're going to have to. Maybe drop a plains, go up a forest if you end up doing it that way. Outside of that, I don't know which one would actually be. But we have like no fancy way to blink the druid and stuff. But the druid is a 0/2, whereas the Bondwarden is a 0/1. I still think I value having that bottom ability on here though, because think about that last game too. If Mono Red found a way to actually remove the Bondwarden, which they wouldn't have minded because it was a really good blocker on the ground at that point in the game, we had other creatures to plug those counters onto, which would have just been equally as menacing or an equal problem for Mono Red. So I think I still value the Bondwarden. It's just something to consider, I suppose. Both of them are budget friendly, as the Bondwarden is a common and the Sun... Literally just read the name. A Sun Shower Druid is also a common. So both budget friendly. I'm going to keep the Bondwarden. And the deck list performed well enough to say, I'm not going to change anything, dude. More testing required, but like I think it's going to be relatively decent still. Innkeeper's Talent has been awesome so far. Really fun card. I love that level 2, and that level 3 coming in handy today was so cool, man. Would have loved to see more Brawler. We didn't get to see too much Brawler today, right? We see it in like one game? I don't know, man. I've been playing too many games of Magic. But I put Brawler in the thumbnail because it's kind of like the build-around centerpiece of the build. So it's going to be good, though, in here, I'm pretty sure. We had so many things just slamming counters that the Brawler is going to be decent, especially with that trample, dude. The Bristly Bill. Oh, man. Yeah. Everything here. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Guys, Fabled Passage. I've been bringing this up at the end just in case. This is an old version of Fabled Passage because Fabled Passage is a reprint in Bloomburrow. So keep an eye on that. Make sure you don't have any old versions of Fabled Passage to add to the deck list before you craft these because these are rare. Fabled Passage is a pretty decent land. But just always keep an eye on if you have older versions. I have none of the new versions of Fabled Passage, and I don't plan on crafting them either. So I'm just going to keep these old versions and keep on bringing it up when I post this in the description. And when I post it over on Aether Hub as well, I'll try to remember to change the Fabled Passage to the newest version. So it'll be the Bloomburrow version. Just always keep your eye on that, though, for any reprints, honestly. Or reprints that are rares and mythics at the very least, you know? The Doomskar Warrior is, this could probably be your 4-drop of choice, right? I think you could trade this for another 4-drop that works with counters and be pretty satisfied with that. You probably still want it to be a creature, so at the very least still works with Beastcaller. But I still like this. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you look at that many cards, and that many cards can be a lot of cards, and I think usually you'll be able to hit a creature with that, which is actually just really good, and acting as more ways to stock up your hand outside of the Dusk Legion Duelist. Did we end up flooding at all today? I don't believe so. I think the mana was kind of perfect, right? Yeah, I wouldn't go up any. I wouldn't go down any. If anything, I could see going down to 23. If you go down to 23 mana, maybe like the Brushland, down 1, and then just go up more removal. Another Get Lost is going to be totally fine. Or your choice spot removal at that point too. I do think that the deck list might be fast enough to consider something like a Soul Partition maybe. That's always a card I try to keep my eye on for super fast builds. I do know that most people prefer the Get Lost though. If we go down to 23, it's like I was saying in those matches though too, where there's going to be a lot of games where you like, no matter what, you want to see your third on turn 3 so you can start to pop off early on. And if you have 2 mana for too many turns, and it's like turn 5, and you're like, oh, I finally saw my 3rd mana, at that point, you might be in some trouble. So I do like the 24, especially when we have 3 Bristly Bills too, because Bristly Bill makes it so that way you're not too sad when you top deck land in that later half of the match. Especially Fabled Passage too, so. And then Fabled Passage helping us thin the deck. Yeah, no, I think the 24 makes a lot of sense. Okay, guys. Hey, thank you for the suggestion again. This was a lot of fun and felt pretty darn good too. So I hope everyone had as much fun today as I had. If you made it this far into the video for real, y'all are champions. I super duper appreciate you. Let me know, what would you add or take out? What does your Selesnya counters deck list look like? Yeah, let me know all that in the comments. And yeah, thanks for being here. I will see you in the next video.